Mr. Alvi. The company was established in 1997 with very little capital, but lots of determination and hard work.
Alvi's been in, it's actually Alvi who started this business. He's an upholsterer. He worked for all the big companies.
I started in my garage with a small compressor and one sewing machine and one staple gun. And from there I went to shops. Well, most of the shops knew me. They know what I'm capable of doing and all those things. And they said to me, we'll stand behind you. Open a factory, get a place. And I got a place and I started off there, and that is how I progressed. I was honest and I was reliable. If I do a job and there's something wrong, maybe it's not even my fault, I'll get into my car and I'll go to the people's houses to go sort out the problem for. That is what shops want.
The SOD approach is a planned, system-wide change approach, which means that consultants intervene to improve organizational effectiveness by addressing the organization's existing culture, strategy, and structure. The aim is to develop the ability of the organization to become a learning system which continually renews itself to cope with changing needs. Throughout the training, students conducted practical consultancies. The intervention made with Alvi Designs is the final part of the training program. The SOD approach covers 7 phases: contact and contract, assessment, data collection, diagnosis, analysis, hypothesis, feedback, intervention planning, implementation, managing change, evaluation, exit, re-entry, recontracting.
We thought it would be a good idea to use Alvi Designs as our final project for certification. And in the first meeting we discussed the company and how the business works, who the stakeholders are, basically just to get a feel for the business and to form initial assumptions about the company culture. We also use this as an opportunity to build rapport with the people that we're going to be working with, and to get them to know and trust us and in terms of our professional competencies. And then we developed an interview schedule, and we decided it was going to be a combined interview with the managers and a group interview with some of the people, and then some individual interviews with the staff. We then discussed what it is that they wanted us to focus on and why. We described the systemic organizational development approach and how we would go about it.
Basically, phase 2 of the organizational development cycle is really the data collection phase. So essentially what we do is we have a plan on how we would collect the data from a particular client organization. And of course this is previously discussed with them and agreed upon. So in the case of Alvi, what we did is we used observation of people, language, the relationship, authority-worker relationships. We also observed symbols. Symbols are a very important part of organizations and their culture. And generally in the SOD approach, intuition and how we feel is something that alerts us to issues that might need to be raised or considered for whatever reason. We also then looked at written materials by the company. This is often in the form of policies or other written materials, the history, how it started, general information that one would look at, the annual reports. We then decided that we would use both qualitative and quantitative interviews. In the SOD approach, what we find is that interviews are a form of intervention in and of itself. Because what it does is, in asking the kinds of questions that we do, perhaps there are gaps, perhaps it's an area that they haven't considered. So already, you're getting the organization to start thinking about where they're at and how they place in relation to the kinds of questions the consultant is asking.
But the space is not big enough for a upholsterer to work in.
Since the last time we were here, that was used as a showroom, but now they've had to move stuff in there. And it looks like the space is becoming increasingly limited here. So it looks the more work you get, the less space there is. So yeah, I guess that's one of the issues that management will have to look at.
That's all right.
Space. Thank you.
From the desktop study and interviews conducted, data was collected and analysed and interpreted. From this, the consultants produced preliminary findings in the form of assumptions, designed to form a comprehensive view of the current culture. The assumptions were: workers have a high degree of freedom. Does this lead to efficiency and clear understanding of objectives? Management are well dispersed to staff. Are difficult personnel decisions neglected? People's contributions are rewarded, but are they rewarded for playing by the rules and providing a reliable, dependable service to the company? Responsibilities of jobs are clearly defined. How can this translate into responsible individuals? Is the view of the future clear and shared by all? Is good leadership the absence of communication with staff? The management is carrying a heavy load. Are there other shoulders as well?
These assumptions would then be used in the feedback session to provide for critical discussion and introspection.
Phase 4 is really the feedback stage. And in the feedback stage of the SOD process, essentially what we did is we started off by looking at a technique called open stuff as a point of entry into LV Design, the company. And open stuff is a technique or a process in which the two consultants actually gossip about the client in their presence. And the idea really is to provoke the client's insight. And what one does around this is that they get an idea of how they're perceived from the outside. Basically, after this process, they are given the opportunity to talk about or to respond to what it is they feel about this technique called open stuff. After the presentation of the assumptions, we realize that this is the final phase of our